In his book, Carney argues that in order to achieve net zero, fairness, inclusivity, sustainability, and other values and social goals that they and other global elites consider important, prices of various goods and services can be artificially reset, and the operation of the financial system can also be adjusted to direct resources towards sectors that support these values and goods, thereby nudging society, even the entire world, toward the future they envision for every one of us. But, in the words of Hayek, this is a dangerous form of conceit and a fatal one. The Gosplan, State Planning Committee of the former Soviet Union, which was responsible for setting national product prices and drafting one after another 5-year plan for Soviet Union, was staffed by hundreds of thousands of people who shared Carney's belief in rational planning and top-down control. The result of their diligent efforts? Massive misallocation of resources, constant shortages of goods, and housewives lining up for hours just to buy bread or toilet paper. Some might argue that Carney isn't trying to reset prices for all goods, nor is he trying to control all production, distribution, and trade. He isn't calling for the replacement of the market with central planning. Rather, he just wants to artificially adjust the prices of some goods and influence certain aspects of the market and financial system. In other words, he wants to find a middle path between the free market and planned economy by combining the advantages of both. But Hayek has already exposed the flaws of the so-called middle way as early as in 1945 in his classic work, The Road to Serfdom. He argues that once a society accepts central planning in some areas, it inevitably sets itself on a path toward more control and less freedom, no matter how well-intended the starting point might be. This is because the prices, production, and distribution of goods in any economy are intricately connected in ways that are far too complex for any planner or organization to fully grasp. If you try to fix the price of milk, for example, you can't stop there. You will also need to regulate the cost of everything that influences the price of the milk. For example, the price of the cattle feed, the farmer's wages, transportation expenses, and electricity rates, and more. And once you start down that path, it just never ends. You have to control the rent on the land used to grow the feed for the cattle, the housing cost for farmer workers, the price of diesel powering the milk trucks, the infrastructure cost for electricity delivery, and so on, in an endless web of interventions. This sets off an inevitable downward spiral, where the so-called middle path reveals itself as a slow and steady drift toward a full-blown central planning. And as government control spreads into more areas of economic life, the space for individual choice and freedom begins to shrink, often so gradually that people don't notice until it's too late. Society ends up split between those who hold the power to plan and those who are planned for, who gradually become serfs. This doesn't happen overnight, but through a barely noticeable process of increasing control and decreasing liberty. That's why Hayek didn't call his book The Night to Serfdom, but rather The Road to Serfdom. In Carney's book, he repeatedly emphasizes the importance of solidarity and individual responsibility to the collective, even going so far as to see that they form the moral foundation for the functioning of a healthy society and economy. The reason is simple. When elites like Carney attempt to reshape society and repress various aspects of life based on their blueprint, individual freedoms are bound to be restricted, and public resentment is sure to follow. It's precisely at those moments that values like solidarity and responsibility to the collective will come in handy. When people question the fairness or logic of carbon tax, Carney often replies with something like, okay, then let our planet burn.
Pierre Poilievre would let our planet burn.
The full implication of Carney's such statement is this. You people questioning the carbon tax lack collective spirit and a sense of responsibility. You are so selfish and short-sighted that you are willing to watch humanity's only home, Earth, burn due to rising greenhouse gases. And here, we should pause and reflect. Throughout history, dictators like Mussolini, Hitler, and Stalin all revered solidarity, collectivism, and individual's duty to the group as the highest virtues. That's because in totalitarian regimes, such values are the most efficient tools for suppressing dissent and punishing non-compliance. What they fear the most is for everyone to have independent thinking and freedom of speech. Returning to the main point, while Carney never explicitly says it in his book, but it is very clear, perhaps even unconsciously, that he is in pursuit of a so-called third way, or a middle way, between central planning and the free market. But this middle way will inevitably end in failure and disasters. Because as Hayek rightly pointed out, there is no middle way between a planned economy and a free market.